Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. My name is Sunandini and I'm an entrepreneur who has been associated with Inside IM as a host since 2022. The agenda of this webinar is to have a conversation with the Vice President of Zerodha-Varsity and understand his journey, talk about his opinions on Indian stock market, learn from him the art of teaching complex subjects in an easy way, and understand more about personal investment, and that can help each and every one of us watching this. So today we are very, very privileged to have Karthik Raggappa sir, the VP Education Service at Zerodha as our guest speaker. If you have any questions during the presentation, please comment on the live chat and we'll address them during the Q&A at the end of the session. I'm personally a huge fan of Varsity and always thought about who was behind the brains. And I am really happy to have you here, sir, and excited to learn more from your opinions and experiences.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind introductions, Nandini. I'll be happy to share whatever little I know in this webinar.
So, sir, before we get into your opinions, perspectives, and strategies, I would love to understand your journey, how it started and how it shaped into this direction. Maybe something like how were you as a student, smart, hardworking, social, or introvert?
Yeah, okay, so let's rewind back to my student days. I did my engineering as my undergrad. My branch was telecommunications. I went to an institute called RVCE. It's in Bangalore. So honestly, I don't think so. I was a very great student. I'm a very slow learner, as opposed to most people who like to claim themselves as fast learner. I think I'm on the other side. I'm a very slow learner. I take time to understand things, and I like to break concepts down into smaller components, smaller modules, and understand sequentially and try to connect the dots. So the entire process takes time, and I think somewhere along the way that process has helped me even today, right, when I'm trying to explain things. But anyway, going back to student life, yeah. So that's what I did, and I was a very average student, nothing great to talk about. And post that, I somehow after I got my first job, it was my first salary, and I knew I had to do something with the money apart from spending it on the first salary, whatever usually you do, right? Take your parents out, take your girlfriend out, buy whatever. And then I was still left with some money and I wanted to invest that. So I asked my ex-boss at that point how to go about investing. And he put me in the direction of stock markets and mutual funds and stuff. He said, these are the things that you should know. And this is where you need to start investing in. And I started reading about capital markets, started learning things. And somewhere along the way, I was gravitating more towards the capital markets rather than my core job.
So 2000 was this?
This was early 2000.
Okay.
Early 2000. And around 2007, I decided to pursue my post-graduation in this topic itself. I did my master's in science from an institute called EDHEC. It's in south of France. And I did a course on risk and asset management.
Right. So how did you get the opportunity to go out? Because in 2000, I don't think there was any concept of stock market in India. People didn't know much about it.
I mean, there was an active community. It's just that, I mean, now it's almost everybody talks about it. But back then it was small circles where all these discussions were happening, not as mainstream as it is now. Right. So, which also meant closer interactions and spending more time. I was a part of a club which would meet every Wednesdays. Right. So I would ride my bike about 15 kilometers away just to be a part of this group and have conversations around stock markets and learn things. So I did that for a few years.
And so, how did you join this group?
I think Yahoo Messenger groups and Orkut was a pretty big place back then, right? So that was the social media. So and because it was a small circle, word of mouth was quite powerful, right? So and yeah, so 2007-8, I went to France to pursue this post graduation, and coincidentally, before going to France, I had quit my main job, and I was with Kamath Associates, which is what Zerodha was before Zerodha, right? So we were all trading the markets together, doing different things. I went to France, and then recession happened. Lehman Brothers crisis, subprime crisis happened. Job market was pretty dry. So I decided to come back here. I, in fact, got a job in London, but that didn't last long because of whatever was happening in UK and the rest of the world. So I came back here and I started again with Kamath Associates. And at that point, Nitin, who is the founder, CEO of Zerodha, he wanted to start Zerodha, right? He wanted to get into mainstream broking, but at that point, my interest was more into money management. So so I started my own advisory and money management business.
So just to backtrack a bit, can you explain us the moment when you met the Kamath brothers?
I think around 2005, 2006, I don't recollect, but somewhere around that point, multi-commodity exchange had started operations, MCX, right? And there were contracts on crude oil, pepper, zinc, aluminum, various different commodities that were traded. It was a very niche thing, and I wanted to learn more about that. And I think MCX, along with Wellinger Institute, if I'm not wrong, did a 3-month diploma program in commodities trading. I had enrolled for that, and I think early 2005. And Nitin had also joined that program. Okay. And I still remember there were about 50 of us in that classroom, and the only guy who had very different set of questions compared to the rest of class was Nitin, right? So he was already talking about drought in Brazil and how that would affect coffee prices and why someone should be shorting those commodities here and whatnot. So that was very impressive, and I somehow got in touch with him. We became friends, and we've been together since then. Right. Okay. So
that's why you joined their company, and at such a recent stage when you didn't even know to work out or not.
Yeah. So there was no company as such. It was just a bunch of like-minded people, trading the markets from a facility, right? So which Nitin had started at that point. So and eventually it started taking shape of a company. So everybody looks at Zerodha as a 10-year story now, but actually the roots of Zerodha was planted long ago when Nitin he's been a very active market participant for a very long time.
Right. So you left Zerodha for a while for money management, and you started your own company.
Correct. I started my own company. I had partnered with another person called Prakash, and we were managing money, advisory and money management. So there is a regulatory thing called Portfolio Management Services, PMS. So the aspiration was to get a PMS license and manage funds in a more regulated way. But unfortunately, at that point, we didn't have the necessary net worth. And SEBI also increased the minimum ticket size for PMS clients. Earlier, it was 5 lakhs. And then SEBI came out with a rule saying the minimum amount a person can invest in a PMS should be 25 lakhs. Now, if I'm not wrong, it's around 50 lakhs. I'm not sure. I think it's 50 lakhs. So, but anyway, so that was a big hit on what we were trying to do, because it was nearly impossible for us to find clients who would invest 25 lakhs just looking at our faces, right? So with very little track record.
And
So,
sir,
but
what
then,
will your services be? Can you just elaborate a bit on
sorry.
what will what will be the services that you'll provide if you are working for this?
It's a very straightforward service. Do you understand? I'm sure you understand mutual funds, right? So
Yes.
think of mutual funds as PMS for the masses.
Hmm.
So you have mutual funds where anybody can go invest a certain amount of money. That could be as little as 500 rupees a month, right? Now, PMS does something similar, but they do it for high net worth individuals, right? So you need to have minimum 25 lakhs to invest, right? And they will profile your risk appetite, and they'll create a portfolio for you, manage that portfolio, give you regular updates on what's happening. And if you're more involved, then you can get information on why a certain stock was picked, why a certain stock was sold, things like that. So basically, it's a very personalized service.
And sir, what are the charges?
Also, so PMS, different PMSs charges different rates, but the thumb rule is there's something called as 220 rule. So 2%, or let's say you invest 25 lakhs, 2% of 25 lakhs is straight away taken as management charge, right? So, and then on the profits, up to 20% can be charged. So this is a standard model. It's called the 220 model, but it depends, right? So it depends on fund to fund.
So this was the plan you were planning in for your own company, or were the Kamath brothers and you all?
No, this was what I intended to do. But then we never really qualified in terms of net worth at that point, so we couldn't get the necessary license from SEBI. So which was a big hit for us. But what we started to do to sustain ourselves was we also started conducting many workshops across the state in association with the National Stock Exchange. Right? Manipal and National Stock Exchange were running stock market related programs. And see, the thing with PMS is you don't make money until and unless your clients make money. Right? So the waiting period is very long. But as a young entrepreneur, we wanted to see revenues coming in quickly. We were pretty impatient, and one of the easiest way for us to make money, make revenues, was conduct workshops, right? And it was a golden opportunity for us because National Stock Exchange and Manipal University together co-branded a 5-day course on stock market. And while they did all that, they also wanted people who can run these programs for them, right? Be on the ground and conduct workshops. So various things happened, and as luck would have it, that contract landed with me and my partner. And I think we conducted over 450 to 500 workshops over those 2-3 years, right? So, and almost every weekend we were busy running 2-3 workshops in parallel. And that was a great learning experience for us.
So the workshop is somewhat like you're teaching people, right? About
exactly.
You went into courses, structuring everything together.
Exactly. So we were meeting so many people, thousands of people, and each of these interactions was so invaluable. So it gave you an insight into how people learn. It gave you an insight into what is it that people expect when you're talking about a certain topic. And there was a point where you would explain, we would explain a certain concept, and we would immediately know what kind of questions would start coming out. And we had a complete FAQ kind of session after the workshop to address all those questions. So we kind of really evolved during that process. And I think a lot of Varsity's success today can be attributed to those workshops.
Right. And why did you leave that and then get back to Kamath Brothers after this point?
So this friend of mine, we ran this program for we were doing we did this business for almost 5 years, and my friend, my partner, had slightly other aspirations. So he didn't want to continue. Not that even I was we were doing it just for the revenues, but our core was aspiration was something else, right? So we decided to wind it down and had our own ways. So.
And was there any bitter feelings when you left Zerodha at that point and then you joined now?
No, not at all. So, although I left Zerodha, we were all very closely interacting on a regular basis, right? So, I mean, for example, while during that course, if someone wanted a demat trading account, I would always suggest Zerodha, and I would follow up and make sure their accounts were open. So I was in touch with the team on a regular basis, right? So there was.
Sorry, sir.
And there was never, there was no question of bitter feeling at all.
Okay. And when did Zerodha realize they need a platform like Varsity and they need a role called Chief of Education for that?
So when I got back to Zerodha, so Nitin and I had a discussion on, I mean, education was always on the cards, right? We knew there was a big gap and it needed to be filled. While a lot of content was available about different topics in stock markets, they were all scattered across the internet, right? So, for example, if I had to learn about, I'm talking pre-Varsity days, right? So, if I had to learn something about options, then I would have to bounce across 10 different websites to get a complete understanding of options, and there was no question of posting your queries and getting a reply back to that, right? So you had to, if you had questions, you again had to scout all over the internet to find your answers. So this was a big gap, and Nitin and I had spoken about this multiple times, and we decided to give it a shot. We said we need a portal where all information is put on a single portal, and we give all information without holding back anything. And most importantly, we make the portal accessible in terms of where people can submit their queries, and we can reply back to that as quickly as possible. So even today, I do that. Every day I spend at least 2 to 3 hours replying to queries on Varsity. So it's been almost 8 years now, but it's a part of my schedule.
Maybe that is why people are more like, you are getting involved in the queries and questions.
Yeah. So because that's a very critical part of making sure that people who visit and read Varsity get what they really want. So without that, I think a big chunk of Varsity would be wouldn't make sense.
So, sir, I want to understand your thought process. You joined Zerodha, and then you and Nitin, or maybe many people, are working on Varsity now to create a product that has to be very easy to understand. And maybe parts of your life where you had a hard time understanding concepts and you broke down everything helped you here, and plus the workshops you attended. But what was maybe some major challenges which were roadblocks, and you were like, okay, I have to cross all these to solve a big problem? So
I think the biggest challenge for me with respect to Varsity has always been Varsity is article based. Now, of course, we are getting into videos and all that stuff, but a large part of Varsity is long form articles, which means to say, and every article is original. You have to write it. So, and you have to ensure it's connected to the previous chapter and the next chapter, and so it's a very elaborate affair. So I think for me personally, the biggest challenge has been maintaining the momentum of these articles, right? So there are times when I can't write a word. I would just be looking at the screen blank, and words just don't flow. And there are times when within a day I can complete 1.5, 2 articles. So I don't know how to overcome this. But this has been the biggest challenge. For example, right now I'm working on a module called financial modeling. It's more about uh, business valuation and all that stuff. So it's been a year, right? It's a very complex topic, and usually people explain financial modeling in a in-class session or a video-based tutorial. So here I am trying to attempt explaining this in an article-based format, and it's been a year, and I've personally, I think this has been one of the toughest phase for me to complete this module because of the complexity involved. So yeah, challenges do exist, and most of them is mainly in terms of I think they call it the writer's block, right?
Yeah.
Overcoming that, yeah.
So, sir, why is Varsity in article form? Why not in video? And I know you have a YouTube channel as well, but why not
Yeah.
keep the app also more interactive by using pictures and videos?
Yeah. So when we started Varsity, the idea was to educate people, but we were also, this was in 2013. We had limited resources, right? And go and core of everything that's done at Zerodha is also keeping scale in perspective. So given limited bandwidth, given limited resources, there was no way we could start a video-based content back then. So it had to be a low-cost model. So article was the easiest way to get started. And honestly, I think finance as a subject, right? It's extremely nuanced. There are, like, for example, if I'm talking about futures trading, now it has so many topics and subtopics and so many tiny details. I think articles is what really makes sense. I can't try to squeeze all of this in a 8-minute video, right? Because if I do, I would be compromising on the quality of content and so many other small details which would really matter to the audience, right? So for all these reasons, and I'm glad that we really took the article-based approach, because today, when someone goes to Varsity YouTube channel, or if the YouTube channel will probably give a summary of what is there in the article base, so I won't feel guilty that I've squeezed so much to make that 8-minute video, because I always redirect them back to the articles where there's all the nuances covered.
Right. So, sir, you started YouTube with what intention?
We started YouTube mainly because there was a lot of pressure to deliver content in video format as well. So now today we're lucky to be associated with Learn app, who help us produce these videos. So the way it works is we create the content, and they help us produce this particular video, right? So now all those things are in places, and luckily we are in a position to afford making these videos. So given that there was a lot of pressure, we decided, okay, let's just do it.
On this note, this reminds me about one thing in Alt Uni that we faced. So we saw that social media was booming, and YouTube was and it is such a big thing in our Inside IM channel. So that is why we added a digital marketing course in Alt Uni, where we teach how to use these skills, DM skills and tools and soft skills, and also give you an interview chance with HUL itself. And sir, I'm like, I really want to add Zerodha one day if you will help us do it. And maybe we can help people get in Varsity through this, maybe any course or anything. Maybe someday, one day, we would love to have you on our course and channel. So please
Totally.
look into this, guys. You also look, and sir, I would love to have you in this channel one day, and
Sure.
hope to bring our city to as many people as possible. So moving on, maybe I want to like know your opinion of the market and how you think Zerodha made a difference here, and getting back into a more general scope rather than varsity. So
Mhm.
talking about maybe what do you think trading is as a business? How do you think it is?
Trading as a business is extremely challenging, right? So people, especially I've seen a lot of influencers
Hmm.
make it look so easy. But
Hmm.
having been through this path, I can rest assure you that trading is not an easy thing to sustain. Right?
Hmm.
It's very very challenging, financially challenging, mentally challenging. You go through immense amount of stress, and it's not easy.
Hmm.
But if done right, which takes a lot of time, it can be rewarding as well,
Hmm.
right? But given the barriers are so high, uh, 9 out of 10 people fail.
So, sir, are you talking about companies entering this industry and like they are not able to create a business that can help people invest? Or are you talking of individual people
I'm
investing?
talking about individuals. I thought the question was about
Oh, no,
individuals.
no, it's okay.
Yeah,
Whatever it is. Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
So for individuals, it's very challenging. Um, I think some of the ways to make it better for yourself if you're considering trading is, first of all, you need to set realistic expectations of what you can achieve from trading,
Hmm.
right? When I say realistic expectations, I'm talking about the returns that you can generate on a yearly basis. So you need to set realistic expectations there. And once you set your realistic expectations, of course, you need to spend a lot of time to educate yourself, right?
Hmm.
Because it's a very complex field. Uh,
Hmm.
there are so many topics and subtopics that, like I mentioned earlier, if you're dealing with markets on a daily basis, you better know those concepts, and you better know what you're dealing with in order to have a better outcome for yourself, right? So you need to educate yourself, and it requires a lot of discipline, right? Because when you're dealing with money, your emotions are very strong. Uh,
Hmm.
you need to be disciplined in terms of your approach to money, your approach to
Hmm.
risk, and like I said, your expectation in terms of reward as well. So you need to keep all these things in check, and if you do, the odds of being successful in trading as a career is slightly better.
And sir, if an individual, it's very hard for an individual. So is it a good business for a company who like the people in the company who know how to trade and form a company and make a business out of it? Is it a good business in that sense?
See, end of the day, whether you form a company or you trade individually,
Hmm.
what really matters is how do you deal with your uh, emotions in the market,
Hmm.
right? So, and how well you understand the market. So regardless of individual or company, you need to have this one basic thing in perspective, basic thing correct, right? Otherwise, the odds of failing is very high.
Hmm. And sir, nowadays people say that most of the businesses are not adding value. They are
Mhm.
creating platform, generating leads, but that's it. What they are doing, they are not adding value to something to make it better. So, do you think this business, this trading business itself, is a value creation in the economy?
Uh, that's a very tricky question. So whether see, there are taxes that you pay when you trade, right? So now, obviously, that benefits the economy in some way or the other. The
Hmm.
main tax that's collected from trading is called the security transaction tax,
Hmm.
right? Then, apart from that, there are obviously capital gains and stuff, right? So all of this goes back to the economy in some way or the other. Uh, So from that perspective, yeah, there is value addition. Value addition is also there in terms of, I won't talk about traders because it's very, very difficult to quantify that. But wealth generation, right? So that I've seen that happen uh, across companies and individuals, where long-term wealth has been generated, right? Eventually, that wealth also gets unlocked at some point and goes back to the economy. So there is value creation. There is a positive impact on the economy.
And sir, how would you say that Indians' knowledge is with regard to stock markets? And you told me there was a gap in knowledge. That's why Varsity came into picture. But how bad were Indians before Varsity was there in the picture?
Uh, I think from all the interactions I've had, uh, I don't think so. We are still there in terms of financial literacy at a countrywide level, right? So unfortunately, I think over the last 2 years, with so many influencers of sorts coming into on social media, I think the country has taken maybe a step back in terms of financial literacy, because these influencers make it sound so easy, uh, and people following them tend to skip all the different steps that are there in terms of understanding the market, right? So I would say that has taken the country back by one step. So that's my personal opinion, uh, because of all the decisions, trading and investing decisions that people take, right? It's very it's quite painful to watch that. So as a country, I think we still have to do a lot more in educating ourselves about finance. And I think it's also very important to start this education very early on in a person's life, maybe at the school level itself.
Got it. And sir, Varsity came into picture. Are there any stats that how Varsity impacted India's knowledge on stock markets?
See, the thing is, we don't follow any metrics in Zerodha. We don't really track metrics, right?
Okay.
So we just do because we know it's good for the customer. But we don't go on doing aggressive, search engine optimization or whatever, right? We don't do any of those uh, marketing uh, gimmicks. So we just do because we know this is what this will have a positive impact on the customer, right? So we don't track metrics. I don't know if I don't know the demographics of, okay, people of this age group spend X minutes on the website and all the jazz that's out there. We don't really track. So I won't be in a position to answer that question. Having said that, for me, one of the indicator for how well the content's being consumed is the number of queries that come in, right? So, and how much time personally I spend on the portal replying to these queries. So that's been doing fairly well. And I still, as I mentioned earlier, I still spend about 2.5, 3 hours every day replying to queries. So, and there are over 100,000 plus queries already on the website. So that's my indicator of how Varsity is doing.
So Varsity was completely made for the people, just
Yeah,
to
exactly.
give
Yeah,
knowledge and create that
exactly.
education.
Anyone with an intent to learn
Hmm.
about trading and investing. So this is one place where they'll get all information needed, and they can also get their questions answered.
Okay. And so, what according to you made Zerodha so different compared to their competitors? Were there any competitor to start with?
Yeah, I mean, I think from the third year onwards, we started seeing competition in the other brokers offering similar services. Now, of course, there's a lot more competition because Zerodha has established and proven that this model is scalable and can be profitable. So others are trying to mimic that success story, and we need to see over time how each one of these entities would evolve.
Okay. And why is Zerodha better or good? Right now, it's one of like it is the top, like highest and the best stockbroker platform. Why is it?
I think see, we've never really, as I mentioned, we've never really chased metrics, and that also includes revenues, right? So we whatever we do it with a genuine intent of helping our customers. All decisions are taken by the heart, not by any revenue or profitability kind of constraints. Plus, we don't have external investors, so we take decisions on the fly, and it's usually pro customer decisions, right? Because we're not chasing growth, we're not chasing revenues. So all of us are pretty content. Uh, we are all in a happy space, and everything that we do is for the benefit of customers, and that also includes a lot of transparency in what we do, right? So, and probably that helps us uh, to a large extent.
Understood. So I know many of us have admired Zerodha a lot. And similar to this, we wanted to create a course on product management, basically, for people to understand what product managers do, how they create a product. And Zerodha was always a product which every one of us aim to know and understand what is the objective and aim. And that's why we also have this advanced product management program where we have people who explain the concepts and frameworks from product managers who build products like booking.com, Microsoft, Flipkart, and many more. And listening to you, I actually didn't have an idea about why Zerodha is Zerodha and what the objective is. But now that I hear and listen to you, it seems like a very not chasing after profits. The product was made for the customers and keeping the customers as the center of attention. So that is a very unique kind of thing which we can see in India. So I hats off to you and your team, sir, for that.
Thank you.
And would love to know more about your product one day. I would like it on Varsity channel, maybe that, okay, this is what we do and this is why we work. Or maybe you can come and connect with us and we'll love to do this, sir, one day. So, sir, now to get into more, since your specialization is learning and education services, so would love to understand your thoughts of, on how you understand people and how you explain things like complex things in such a structured form, because I have personally read it and I can't praise enough about Varsity. I am telling you, my mom also understands Varsity, that it is that good, and she's 50-year-old, so it is that good. And so I want to understand firstly, why were investments actually never taught exactly? Was it difficult to teach, or people don't teach how to make money? They don't want to teach other people how to make money. What is the reason?
See, finance as a subject is complex. There's no doubt about that. The thing is, when you use all the financial jargons, and when you're trying to explain topics, right? When you use all those complex jargons and complicate an already complicated topic, the chance of you appearing very smart is very high, right? So I think people like that, and that's why probably finance has always been such a complex topic for general public to appreciate and learn. And so the first thing that we decided to do when the idea of varsity came was to de-jargon the entire thing. Like, we don't want to use any of these complex jargons unless and until it's required, right? So we de-jargoned the entire thing, and yeah, sorry, I lost track of your original question.
So my question was, is it a difficult thing to teach finance in general? And the second one was, is it difficult, or is it people don't want to teach you how to make money?
Yeah, so it is difficult because people have made it difficult. So, but end of the day, if you de-jargon it and explain it in very simple form, finance can be broken down into many smaller, tiny topics and not so complex topics, and you connect all those dots together, and as a whole, you will understand whatever you're trying to learn. So it can be, it's a general template. I think you can apply this to any concept that you want to explain, right? But unfortunately, that hadn't happened. So hopefully we've achieved a certain success with Varsity there.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. So, and when you explain it in this way, people also tend to pick it up fairly easily.
So, sir, what is the structure exactly? Like, is there a question that or a problem that you throw that this is the issue, this is how you solve? What is the structure, if you can say something about it?
So we do the structure that we follow is we've identified broad topics related to stock markets. It could be as simple as basics of stock market. So we call that a module. So if I have to talk about basics to a person, now that's an entire module, and that module will have several chapters, right? So we follow this module and chapter structure. So we've identified nearly 15 different modules, right? It could be basics of stock market, it could be technical analysis or fundamental analysis, or something more complex like futures trading, options trading, or extremely complex like financial modeling, right? So these are all different modules. Now, once we've identified a module, the next step is to break down that module in a sequential way, and put out articles, right? Articles or now probably YouTube videos, and help a person understand that entire module completely. Okay. So that's the broad structure. So module and chapters inside each module, and also open up each of the chapters for Q&A, so that if somebody has a question, then we can address that query.
Okay, got it. So since you are here now, I would love our viewers to get deeper into understanding about personal finance and investment. So maybe some general questions on how is your take and how should people pick up and start investment. So if you had to start personal investing today, and where should I begin if I'm a 20-year-old student?
I think if you're a 20-year-old student and if you have funds to invest, without a doubt, any decent mutual fund is recommended. You can start a monthly investment in a mutual fund in the form of SIP. Now, the reason why you need to do this is not one, of course, is to save money, but to also go through that whole experience of saving money every month, see it grow, grow, right? So you go through the motion. So that experience is very invaluable. And today you may be, dealing with small amounts of money, but the experience of sitting through the market cycle will help you a great deal tomorrow when you have more funds to invest, right? So that discipline that you will achieve with small amounts of money today is the most valuable thing. So the thing is to just get started and make small investments.
Got it. And so what is the most important thing all over to understand in personal investment?
I think there are a couple of things. One is the power of time, right? So especially if you're a 20-year-old, you have the biggest advantage you have is time in your favor. So you need to understand the value that time plays. More the time you have, more time for your money to grow. And the growth itself is in the form of compounding. So that's the second concept. So time and compounding is what you need to understand and how they interact and leading to wealth creation. So that's a very crucial topic for you to understand. So, but the idea is to get started.
Good. As soon as possible.
As soon as possible. Yeah.
And what are the different types of investment that we can do?
See, broadly, there are capital market investments. Then there are, of course, real estate and all that stuff. So I'm guessing you're asking this keeping a 20-year-old in mind. So for a 20-year-old, I would suggest 100% investment in equity. So don't even look at other instruments like debt funds and all that stuff. It's not required because you have time in your advantage, and time is what is required for equity investments. Make investments, but forget about it for a long time. You need to give your investment a lot of time. So stick to that.
Okay. And sir, what about you? Some investment strategies that you follow now?
Um, I'm fairly biased towards equities. So bulk of my personal investments are in equities, and I've because of the because of the fact that I've been investing for a while, I've seen different market cycles, and I've kind of grown dispassionate about drawdowns. So when markets are falling, I don't really get as nervous as probably a newbie would get, right? Because I've seen that happen over and over and over again. This is how market works, and this is the reason why you need to start early as well, because you can experience the entire thing. So my bulk of my investments are in equities, some direct stocks, but largely mutual funds. I used to trade very actively earlier, but now we have a policy in Zerodha that none of the employees are allowed to trade. So we don't trade because it's like a conflict of interest, right? Your clients are trading, why would you want to trade as well? So we don't trade.
So all the employees are acceptable to this whole policy.
Yeah, that's a very and very important internal rule that we have. No trading allowed for employees.
Okay, that is very interesting. So, sir, I have just last question one. What are you chasing now in your life for motivation or your upcoming future?
Chasing, I think, I know that's a very tricky question, but I think I'm trying to chase new skills. So suddenly I think they call this midlife crisis, but suddenly I've realized that uh, there are so many things that I should have picked up earlier on in my life, which I've not done. So as basic as I still don't know how to swim, right? I've gone and enrolled for swimming classes. So and I struggle. I'm horrible at it. Right? So things like this, right? So these are skills that I'm chasing now, and hopefully pick up one or two skills over the next few years.
Good. Sir, I'm done with my questions, but I'm going to direct this to my audience and see what they have for you. So let's start this. So I think the first question is trading sustainable?
Provided you do it the right way. We spoke about a couple of basic things that a person needs to do, right, in terms of setting expectations, learning, evolving. So once you have these things in place, it can be sustainable, but it takes a lot of time.
Okay.
The initial years are not going to be easy. It's going to be very, very stressful. And if you have an opportunity, don't even get into it. Right? Get into investing, but don't take up trading as a full-time career. I've seen people who give up their full-time jobs just to get into trading full-time because they would have made money on one or two trades. They get encouraged by that, and they think it's very easy to repeat that success by trading full-time. So that's a big mistake. So don't ever do that.
Okay. So sir, our founder Ankit sir he's writing, "Hi Karthik, big fan of Varsity. How do you ensure people are educated against trading addiction?"
Okay, I think being very transparent about the dark side of trading, where you lose your inner peace because you're not, you have a certain money goal every month. You need to generate a certain amount. Let's say your salary is X amount of rupees. You quit that to start trading. Now, somewhere you're expecting X plus Y as your trading income. When that doesn't happen, it can have a toll on your mental health, right? So you need to be aware of those things. We are trying to do as much as possible from our side by introducing nudges on our trading platform, where we try to highlight potential pitfalls while you trade. Uh, but that said, that's a very interesting question. I think probably there's more work to be done in terms of making people understand trading can be an addiction, and somewhere they need to draw a line.
So what are the nudges you were talking about?
So we have our trading platform is called Kite, where people log in and transact in the stock markets. So nudges are small little warnings that we issue on the platform when you're just about to take a trading decision, right? For example, if you're buying an illiquid stock, we nudge saying this is an illiquid stock, and then the pitfalls against buying an illiquid stock, penny stocks, whatever, right? So these warnings or nudges come at the key point when you're about to press that button and buy or sell an instrument. So hopefully that will make them think through again and take better financial decisions.
Okay, got it. Who is the correct person to do options trading?
Sorry?
Who is the correct sort of people to do options trading?
Anyone who understands the risks involved in options. See, option is a very, very complex beast. So just to help you put this in perspective, the close cousin of option, which is futures trading, is a very one-dimensional instrument. For example, if a 1 point change happens in the instrument, you either make 1 point as profit or 1 point as loss. There's a very linear structure to it. But in option, it's non-linear. There are multiple forces acting and guiding your PNL. So and these are collectively called the option Greeks. So unless and until you fully understand those aspects of options, you shouldn't really get into options.
And does Varsity explain this fully from top to bottom?
Absolutely. So we've got 2 modules dedicated to options. So and there are thousands and thousands of queries, which itself is a gold mine, right? So all sorts of questions have come in there. And anyone trying to learn options on Varsity, I would suggest you not only read through the main article, but also follow through the comment section, because a lot of good stuff is hidden there.
What is your take on this line? It says that salary is your catering to your necessity, and investment is actually catering to your wants.
Salary is, sorry, can you say that again?
Salary is catering to your needs and necessities, and investment is catering to your wants.
Okay, I'll put it this way. Salary is taking care of your needs, agreed. But it's also catering, it's also adding that fuel to your investments that you make every month, right? And investments is what really creates wealth in the longer term. And what you do with that wealth is really up to you. It could be a want, it could be a need.
Okay. Actually, someone is asking, Ankur, Warikoo once said that if you even invest 1,000 rupees per day from 20-year-old, then by 45 or 50, you will get 1 crore rupees in your account if you invest it correctly and getting more investment compared to an FD. So what do you think about that?
I haven't done the math, but broadly speaking, practically it's impossible for anyone to keep investing 1,000 rupees every day. So you are better off investing.
Every day, they're saying every month.
Every month, fine. Yeah, I think you can do the math. It's fairly easy. I think what essentially he's trying to say is, on a long-term basis, compounding works. So the only thing you need to figure out here is what is the rate of return that he is assuming here. And if that rate of return is obnoxious, then you should disregard that, because such return is not possible in the market. But you really need to do the math and
So what
figure
is
out.
a good return on investment?
So see, when you're investing in the stock markets, you're obviously taking a certain amount of risk. That certain amount of risk is with reference to your fixed deposit. So your fixed deposit, where you don't take any risk, you're getting, let's say, 6%, right? Now, if you're going to the stock market, then obviously you're expecting a return higher than fixed deposit because of the additional risk that you're taking. And that, I think, is on a long-term basis, if you can make few percentage points higher than your fixed deposit, let's say 10 or 11 or 12%, right? So that over long period is fantastic, because over long period, the effect of compounding kicks in and your wealth starts to multiply, at a greater pace. Now, the biggest problem when you're trying to explain this concept is people assume that your compounding works just like your fixed deposit returns. Fixed deposit returns are very nicely sloping upwards, right? There are no drawdowns. In stock markets, there is volatility, there is drawdown, but at some point in the future, when you give it more time, your returns can multiply. Your bulk of your returns can come in the last 2-3 years, for all you know. Right? So it's not as smooth as a fixed deposit return. So when you're investing in equity, you need to be aware of volatility and the role it plays in your investment journey.
Right. Sir, what is the skill that you think students should have to ace in the future in this economy?
I think generally being aware of the financial situation in the country and being glued to that will help a lot. So, of course, along with that, being thorough with all your basics, right? Be it macroeconomics, microeconomics, financial instruments, how they work, how they function, all these things matter a lot.
Somebody is asking, what is the market's impact on operations of a business? So if the operation is good, does the market also show that the prices of the stocks are increasing or decreasing?
See, on the business operations per se, market has zero impact, right? So I think I know where the question is coming in from. Usually when people ask this, they have the IPO of a business in perspective. So a common question is, after the IPO, will the stock price have an impact on the daily business operations? Right? So that's actually the I don't know if this person also has a similar question, but no. What happens is when you're done with your IPO, the target is to raise a certain amount of money for the business for its operations, could be. So once you're done with that, the daily stock price has no impact on operations. What it impacts is the wealth of the investors, not the operations.
Got it. So, well, I think, sir, anything else to add?
I mean, you should tell me.
Okay. Actually, we are done with questions and we are done with today's webinar. So thank you so much for joining Inside IM and being an amazing, amazing guest. And thank you. The audience was also very nice and interactive today. I hope that the audience got to learn something new and how to manage your investments. And I hope they are cracking their brains right now. Thank you so much for sharing your insightful knowledge, sir, and every lesson that you gave, how to teach, how to invest, personal invest, and about Zerodha and everything about your journey. Would love to bring you back in our channel one day to learn more. Maybe Varsity will reach somewhere in greater heights. I'm hoping all the best to that. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.